now that we're in this very uncertain times, people are acting irrationally, especially for college students and people that are graduating now during the pandemic. What do you recommend they do?
Well, we humans are creatures of habit. And so, I explain in Mastery how learning something creates these kind of neural pathways in the brain that are enriching, right? And it's how you learn any kind of skill, whether it's guitar or basketball or whatever. But the same thing can work negatively in your life. So if you develop bad habits, those pathways are being laid, those habits, that discipline, that lack of discipline. And what's happening now is people are very fearful, right? And for reason. And if you're young, if you're 21 or 22 and you're just starting out in life and you're looking forward into the future, you're probably riddled with doubts and fears because you've lived through this. And if you're older, you maybe lived through the crash of '08, and you don't quite trust the world around you. And you don't quite trust that anything will quite work out for you. And this is very dangerous because we're living in a time of incredible opportunity. Businesses are being wiped out left, right, and center, right?
Yeah.
People in various industries, they're gone. And in this landscape, there'll be a lot of room, a lot of space for people to start new things, to start new businesses like you guys did with your podcast. But if you're riddled with all of these fears and anxieties about the world, you won't have the mental strength, the inner resolution to go out and take these opportunities. Instead, you will go, like I was under pressure, you go to law school, you go to business school, you grab something that isn't very powerful because it's not your path. So what I'm saying is be connected to reality, to where the world is going to be in 6 months or 8 months from now. COVID will hopefully be gone. They will have a vaccine. Things will settle back into where they were. The business world will rebound to some extent. And you have to be mentally in a position to exploit this and to be ready to try something different and to be open to challenges and to be open to failing and not be afraid. So if you get too fearful now, if you feel like you can't trust anything, if you feel like I better just grab whatever I can, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because this is a world where things are changing very quickly. And your fears and your anxieties are going to make it so that you can't seize opportunities. So for instance, if I was back in the time when I was 36 and I met this man and I was all afraid about, well, maybe it won't work out. Maybe I write a book and I spend a year and nothing happens. I better, hedge my bets. Instead of going all in on this job, I better maybe try something else, a few things. It would have never worked. It would have never happened. You have to have guts and a fearless approach in life. And so don't let this particular moment spoil your youthful energy and your belief in yourself. That would be my lesson.
And it's a very important one. And you also mentioned that rationality can help guide us through these tough times, that somehow not separating ourselves from emotions, but trying to guide the emotions so that they help us in the ideas that we came up rationally rather than just mindlessly following our emotions.
Yes, neuroscientists, people who study the brain and brain diseases, noticed a very peculiar phenomenon. There was a brain disease where the emotional part of the brain suddenly wasn't working and people had no access to their emotions, kind of like Spock in Star Trek, if you know Star Trek. And they noticed that they were suddenly making the most irrational decisions. They couldn't focus on anything or buy a product or vote for a president or do anything because they realized that emotions play an incredibly important part in our ability to make decisions and to act upon our decisions. So it's very simple. Emotions are very powerful and they're very important. It's what makes you get up in the morning. It gives you the drive to write a book, to start a business, to feel like there's injustice in the world and you have to protest against this injustice and change the world. If you lack that energy, that drive, that impetus, which comes from your emotions, you'll never get anywhere. But if you're completely driven by those emotions, if everything you do is out of anger and frustration and impatience and boredom, you won't be able to channel that energy, that animal energy, those emotions, to anything productive. So you need a balance. A balance is what you must have in life. And that balance comes from two things. First, you have to understand your own emotions. You have to be able to analyze them and go, why am I angry? Why am I upset? Why am I frustrated? Why am I bored? And not just act on them, on those emotions. And that ability to give yourself a little bit of distance will allow you to control that energy. And the other thing is, you need to have really solid discipline, right? You need to have incredible patience in this world. To get anything done, to build anything that lasts, you have to be able to go put up with hours of tedium. They talk about the 10,000 hours, right? And that's true, it's very true. But 10,000 hours are a lot. And of those 10,000 hours, maybe 5,000 are doing things that are very boring and routine oriented. If you're into computers, learning code isn't the sexiest thing in the world. So you have to be patient. And that patience means you have to be able to control your emotions and channel them into something exciting and powerful. So for instance, when I write a book, I'm extremely disciplined. I work very, very hard, but I also have a lot of anger or a lot of frustration that I put into my books because that's what gives them energy and makes them exciting and entertaining. So don't be afraid of bringing out your anger or your emotions, but be able to control them and channel them into something productive. That is the way to power, in my opinion.